Good morning. It's Wednesday, and I have to say, this is probably the first real day of the wave unit. So, last class, I asked you to think about technology and how it affects your education because part of this unit, we're going to go back to the idea of cell phones and how they work and how they send messages that. What is encryption? What is a binary code? We'll talk about that. But the thing with waves is they're way more practical. Not that cell phones and computers aren't practical, but I think we all do a lot with waves that you may not be aware of. So first thing I'm going to do is walk you through some slides today. The slides are attached on the Canvas homepage, and there is one assignment to do, and it's also there on the Canvas homepage. You'll see me checking over here because I've written notes upon notes upon notes to make sure I get everything important in. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you what the notes are that we're looking at. So here is the home page, and when you scroll down, first I want to show you, I put a little blurb here about office hours, and that may be changing. At this point, not a lot of people have used office hours, but it kind of makes sense because we haven't done anything really tough yet. And I think you're going to have more questions as we get going. If I make any changes to what they are, it'll be located here so you can find that. This part I just thought might be useful to you. So sometimes you might want to be able to say, have the slides out here and have the worksheet out here so you can go back and forth instead of having to go screen to screen. And so that can help you with that. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but everything you've submitted, I put feedback on. So this tells you how you can see what I've recorded. The first thing that I recorded for a score was the assignment last time, and I have not put anything into Synergy yet. You won't see your grades on Canvas. But I'll try and update Synergy, probably not this week, probably by the end of next week. Okay, so you can be checking there. I will send you emails through Synergy so you can check that too. So if I scroll down below, this part is not done. I'm going to have a number 1 that is actually the YouTube video, and then this will be number 2, and you can click here to see the slides again. And then the assignment that I want you to do is right next to it. Okay, so if we take a look at these slides, this is the part that I'm going to have every day to show you what it is we're doing. So what are we doing today? Video, assignment. Where can you find them? On Canvas. What do they do? So I'm not putting due dates on things because people go to the calendar and think that is the due date is when they do the assignment. If I give you an assignment Monday or Tuesday, it'd be nice if it was done before Wednesday. I grade them as they come in. And so if you're a little, it's done Wednesday or Thursday, I can cope with that. That's fine. If there are things where the deadline is hard and fast and I can't change it, I'll make sure you know that. Okay. So if I give something Monday, Tuesday, nice to have it done by Wednesday, Thursday, a new assignment, have that done by the end of the week, and you're good. So here is the first unit. This slide is just showing, today we're talking about what are waves. Next class, how do we use phones to communicate? And trust me, they're related. Now, one thing you may not know is that waves are in everything all around us. And so I'm going to show you some of those things today, but here's our purpose. How do we communicate using waves? I'll tell you a little bit about this Slinky messaging. This used to be our first activity, and I would pair you up at a table and each of you has a Slinky, and you'd have to send a message only with the Slinky. Kind of hard to do this way, but you could think about how that might work if the Slinky has to stay on the table and you send a message like, hi. How would you represent H? How would you represent I? How could you do an alphabet? How could you make capital letters different from lowercase? Could you put an exclamation point at the end? Um, that's what codes are all about. We're going to do a little bit of notes, mostly focused on vocabulary, and it's important that we have the same shared vocabulary. This is what's going to be due. There's where you find it, okay? Now, this page represents some of the kinds of ways we can see waves. When you say waves, people often think ocean waves, waves in water. If I drop a rock into a lake, you see the waves go out from it. Those are waves. Those are absolutely waves. Some people don't think about earthquakes. Those are waves too. And as a matter of fact, in earthquakes, there are 3 major types of waves, and some of those have subtypes. So we actually look at how things are moved as waves go through them. This is kind of a cool picture with the evolution of cell phones. And I'm not seeing any of those flip phones on here, but you can see the size has changed. You can see the antenna has kind of gone away over time. We now, with our touch screens, we have the ability to not just send a text or it was about in here when there were some really cheesy like bowling games available, and now you can watch any movie or video, you can play complex games. So cell phones have really changed over time, and we'll talk about what those have to do with waves as well. Over here, this is from some of our assemblies we've had in the past when we had the super cool, amazing band. There's Dr. Myring right here, and there's Mr. Empsch on drums, Ms. Bengal, Sarmiento, and all of that, we hear that music through waves. Everything is about waves. With waves, I whipped out my old flute. Oh yeah, I was a flute player back in the day. And if I play you a couple things, there are actually differences in these waves. So for example, all of those are waves. And I'll tell you, I used to actually be kind of good, but I've lost my embouchure. I'll work on it. Anyway, those waves move through the air similarly. Well, not even similarly, the same. What's different about them? Frequency. So if I play you a low note, and then I play you a higher note, the frequency is very different. We'll talk more about what that means later. When you look at a movie on TV, the light is coming to you through waves. So your eyes and your ears, very involved in deciphering waves. This next slide, this is just saying that Slinkies are a great way to model waves. And so when you look at these are really short little videos. They are a matter of a couple of minutes each. I would have gotten out a Slinky. I looked around because dang it, I left my Slinky in the car, so I can't show you. You know, and I'm going to pause for just a second because it's totally worth seeing me play with a Slinky. Hang on a second. So I'm pausing. I think I'm still recording, dang it. So I'm not good enough that I know how to pause my video. So I won't go get it. You can watch me play with a Slinky another time. It's okay. All right, so with Slinkies, we use Slinkies to model waves. And the whole idea of modeling is that you use something that is going to represent how something in science works. So I think you know Slinkies. Most of you have played with them. Just a coiled piece of wire, like a big spring. And so what we would do with these is shake them in different ways to show two different kinds of waves. There's transverse and there's longitudinal. So this says, when you watch the video, look for the differences and get ready to take notes. So I'm going to show you just a quick little bit of this, but you can come back and look at this part later. Oh, dang it, I'm not. I'll make sure it works on my website. So with these, oh, it is loading. I'm doing better. It's okay, technology, you know it's not my thing. So if you look at this, dang it. I lost my full screenness. You guys had it, right? There we go. I'm gonna leave my little mistakes in here because I don't think you really care. So in this video, this is showing you that with a longitudinal wave, all that happens is like pulses travel through the wave. And we use some different terms to describe this. You're going to see those in another video. Okay, so how did the hand move? Like back and forth. It just sent pulses. You can go through this video yourself and you'll be able to watch it just fine, right? Okay. This one is going to be on the transverse waves. They move totally differently. So instead of pulses going back and forth, with these,
it's quite clear now. Okay. Actually, this is.
So with these, you can see that these are going side to side. So this is an important idea. This is transverse, and just FYI, trans means across. And so the wave is going one way, but the slinky is vibrating across it. Okay, so watch those without me. You'll do way better. So this just says, remember, we're just modeling waves. And in science, a model is just a way to represent something in the natural world and how it works, okay? So we've already talked about this idea. Think about that. Could you actually send a message? Because as time goes by, we're gonna do a little of that. Okay, next one. For vocabulary on waves, this video is a little bit longer, not very long. It's very good though. This guy, his name is Mr. Anderson, and he's with something called Bozeman Science. And so what you can do is go back to Canvas, open up your waves inquiry notes, and if you can split screen it, you can put this video on while you're doing the notes, and he's going to walk you right through it. Otherwise, you can just go back and forth between the video and the notes. When you're done with the notes, don't forget, just hit that submit button. Okay, so with this one, it's a cool video, which you'll be able to see, and it's going to be awesome. And he'll walk you through everything you need and even do a couple of extra things. And so if I show you this real quick, I've turned down the sound so I can still talk, and he's going to tell you everything you need to know about these waves. And he's also going to go through, and I'm just going to speed it up a little. He's talking about here, that kind, this looks like longitudinal, and he's talking about transverse waves above. He has an equation in here, which we'll get to, but not yet. And what I think is kind of cool is as he goes through this video, he's actually going to show you part of a FET simulation that we're going to do. And so you can see the things that he does on here to model the PhET simulation for you. Okay. When he's going through and talking about waves and modeling waves for you and giving you all that vocab, he does do a couple of things that we don't get to. For example, I think he talks about, what was it? Diffraction and refraction. These are interesting ideas. We're not going to need them at this point. We might get to them a little bit later. So when you go through and answer all the questions, know that. If you want to skip over the things that are not on the worksheet, you can do that. But I also want you to be thinking about long-term, what are we going to do in this course? Because testing and quizzes, these things are, if we're going to do those, they're going to look very different. If we're not going to do those, how am I going to assess what you're learning? So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm thinking about having you do some research on some things that you find interesting. So make a note of it. If we're playing with waves on these videos and you think it would be fun to learn something more about wave refraction and we're not talking about it, then that could be a project. If when we talk about how we see color or how we hear, things might come up about animals that see or hear differently than we do. If that's interesting to you, how the eye and the ear work and how that relates to waves, just remember what I assess you on, what are you learning? And so if there are things you want to learn, this is the ideal time to say, hey, Ms. Elarth, what if I learned something about this and I showed you what I learned by, if you have an idea, great. But if you don't have an idea, maybe I do, and we can talk about it. When you go to the inquiry notes, I just want to show you, don't forget, when you click on that little blue title like I just did, this actually makes a copy for you. You do not have to make a copy of your own. Put your name in, and then here are a couple little tips. There are definitions. So what's amplitude? If you just move your cursor here, and if you go to a letter, the letter A, I'm sorry, not any letter, go to A, you can pick a color. And so you could answer it in a color, and that's really useful to me. So if I just said it, oops, I didn't do it, did I? Okay, so if I say I want to do it in blue, I can start typing. Now notice that super bright color is a really horrible color for your teacher to grade. If I'm going to grade a bunch of these online, try and avoid like the yellows, the highlight blue color. You know, look at it when you type and see, is it a readable color? Because this color, kind of horrible. Okay, so in here, you can define each of these, and each time you'll have to go and pick your color again. And so if I picked something a little more readable, dang it, I mess it up every time when I start, don't I? Let's pick. Okay, so I'm going to say it is and I can type in my answer. Okay, now the next part is here, can you sketch it for me? So you have some options, ideally. One of the things I asked you about in the little survey last week is, do you have all the equipment you need? Do you have a stylus? I think the Chromebooks came with them. If you don't have a stylus, then it's really hard for you to draw that on here. You can import a picture in, do what you need to do. You could even like insert a picture. You could find something online and put it in here to show me the difference between high amplitude and low amplitude. So either way to do that is perfectly fine. Just make sure you get those drawn out. And so we have vocab, sketch it for me, define it for me. These are all really important. This one, for some reason, this answer is already here. So this is what this is. You don't actually have to add more to that. I'll just leave it. You got credit for that already. Um, and then at the end of this, just a quick, okay, how did this go? So let me know if you are having trouble. Now on this one, if you don't know how to turn it in, then just take a picture of it, email it to me, and I'll give you some more directions on that again. Um, as we get going, I may ask some of these questions for a while. I may take some off if it's clear that you know how to find assignments and how to turn them in and where to see feedback, then I don't have to keep asking. But there are some things here that I need to know from you. And down at the bottom, if you do have suggestions for how I can make this easier for you, um, definitely let me know. I'm not going to be, my feelings won't be hurt if you say, you could do it this way. You probably have better ways than I do. So share with me. Every day I'm going to try and tell you, what are we doing today? Where do you find it? When is it due? And so I hope that part's clear. Okay. When you're done, you click submit and that's it. When you close this page down, it takes you back to Canvas and your submit button is over here. That's all. So that's today. I hope that this makes pretty good sense to you. I know that I'm a little not high tech, but hopefully it's good enough. Let's all give each other permission not to be perfect. Okay. I hope you're doing well. Please let me know if you need anything. Stay safe. And that's it. Have a good weekend.